as the Department of Justice moves forward under Pam Bondi.
Did we get a new... Oh, Pam Bondi. Oh, I haven't looked into this person at all. Damn, this was a week and a half ago? Was this person crazy, or... She was one of the lawyers during his first impeachment trial. Jesus Christ! Yes, King. This was a personal lawyer of mine, a personal friend of mine. Who is this lady? F her as well. And like, why would we just let him lie or say like this? Bro, what the f this is so unhinged. We're gonna go after the guys in the media and the politicians and everybody with all the DOJ and the FBI and everybody else. And people are like, yes, that's my team.
All on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical.
Jesus Christ, true. This is the official Joe Rogan channel, right?
That's interesting because
House Speaker Mike Johnson might want to pack his Advil when House Republicans return to...
Official CNN upload to the official YouTube channel with incorrectly panned audio. Yes. Yes.
House Speaker Mike Johnson might want to pack his Advil when House Republicans return to Washington this week. They're on track for a historically small majority, even smaller, after Trump nominated several House members to his cabinet. It means that any one Republican in the House can wield enormous power. And joining me now is a Republican who's been known to go his own way on occasion, Congressman Mike Lawler from New York. Congressman, congratulations on your reelection.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. We do have so much to get to, including that margin, but I do want to start with the news out of Mar-a-Lago overnight, and that was Donald Trump's announcement that he intends to nominate Kash Patel to be his FBI director. Do you have any reservations about Kash Patel serving in that role?
No, Donald Trump campaigned on reforming the FBI and the Department of Justice, so I don't know why any of this is frankly surprising to people. President Trump has nominated in Kash Patel, someone who served as Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense, someone who served as Deputy Director of the NSI, someone who served as a senior staffer on the House Intelligence Committee. He was a federal prosecutor under the Obama administration, and so certainly has requisite experience for this role. I think there's no question President Trump made very clear that the Department of Justice and the FBI would be reformed if he was elected to a second term. And I think, obviously, with the selection of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, that's exactly what he's going to do.
Do you have any reservations about Patel potentially...
Why is everyone hating on this Kash Patel? Because he's fucking insane. I think we watched yesterday some shit about him. It's... Jesus Christ.
Going after President-elect Trump's political enemies? Patel has a list of names in his book.
Look, I don't think the American people are interested in a revenge tour, but obviously if people did wrong in their official capacities, then that's something they should be concerned about. But if they didn't do anything wrong, if they upheld the law, then there shouldn't be a problem. The objective here, obviously, is to reform the Department of Justice and the FBI and get it back to its mission of going after criminals. You know, growing up in New York, the FBI in the aftermath of 9/11 was focused on going after terrorism. And obviously, in recent years, we've seen the FBI and the Department of Justice weaponized in a way that it has become completely political. That's not good for...
Can we get examples of this ever? What, can any news person ever ask examples of this? Like, why do you fail so much? Like, so like, here's my issue. So CNN is supposed to be the left-leaning media, right? This is the liberal media, right? Are we going to push this guy on actually justifying that statement? Let's see. Maybe. Well, hold on. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. We'll see.
For the American people, it's not good for our system of justice. The lack of confidence that Americans have in the Department of Justice and the FBI is terrible. And so obviously we want a system that is reformed, that works for the American people, and that prosecutes criminals. And that should be the objective and the goal of every American. And obviously that's what my hope is as the Department of Justice moves forward under Pam Bondi and the FBI under Kash Patel.
If the goal is partisan neutrality...
Wait. Did we get a new Pam whatever? Is that a new person? Oh, Pam Bondi. Oh, I haven't looked into this person at all. Damn, this was a week and a half ago? Okay. Was this person crazy, or... She was one of the lawyers during his first impeachment trial. Jesus Christ! Yes, King shit, yes. Yes. This was a personal lawyer of mine, a personal friend of mine. Absolutely. Being based. Okay.
As the Department of Justice moves forward under Pam Bondi and the FBI under Kash Patel.
if the goal is partisan neutrality, is Patel not a partisan? And it's also maybe worth noting, I mean, Christopher Wray was appointed by then President Donald Trump.
Right, and Christopher Wray's FBI then went and investigated Donald Trump. These charges have since been dropped by the special prosecutor. But again, Casey, these issues have been...
Like, he should have why am I on this dog shit YouTube website? Oh my God, I want to say so many evil things that should happen to this piece of shit. So first of all, just because somebody investigates somebody doesn't mean there is wrongdoing. There's nothing wrong with investigating somebody. Number one. Number two, and then the charges were dropped. Charges were dropped. Why? They were dropped because Trump is going to dismiss them when he comes into office. Why? I like how he just like glances. Also, who is this lady as well? And CNN. Where is the reporting or the accountability or the knowledge on any of these cases or anything that's happening ever? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, why would we just let him lie or say shit like this? Sorry. Okay. This is the both sides media. It's actually unbelievable. It's actually unbelievable that, okay.
Litigated in this election that we just had. Donald Trump talked about this for 2 years, so I don't know why anybody is surprised. The American people voted for Donald Trump overwhelmingly, despite him campaigning on these issues. So, look, I'm not concerned about partisanship here. I think we've seen a DOJ and an FBI that have been weaponized.
How? Push him? No, we don't do that here. These are they're softball interviews. Every single thing on CNN or MSNBC, if it's a Republican, is always going to be softball. If this was fucking Kamala Harris, dude, CNN would be trying so hard not to look biased. Kamala Harris would say some shit like, yeah, so I love my country, the United States. And they're like, were you really born though? When are you going to release the video footage of you emerging from your mother's vagina with like a fucking notary public right next to her to verify the identity with blood? It's just like, bro, what the fuck is this? Is so unhinged.
You look at the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James, she literally...
Is there a good reason why the charges should be dropped right now? I prefer Trump doing it himself to force the partisanship. Trump, because there's a memo that questions whether or not a sitting president can even be indicted by the DOJ. Although, and I've never heard Pisco answer this question, if that's the case, I don't know why we had a special prosecutor for Biden when his documents were found. Really weird that we had a special prosecutor for Biden under his DOJ when supposedly the DOJ can't indict a sitting president. So I don't know what the point of that investigation even was, if that was supposed to be impossible, but we would just assume for Donald Trump there would be no special prosecutor investigating him under his own presidency because of course he would dismiss the charges or he would tell his AG to fire that special prosecutor. Just crazy how the world works.
They campaigned on prosecuting Donald Trump. I didn't see many in the media objecting to that. The fact is that our system of justice and an FBI that have been weaponized, you look at the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James, she literally campaigned on prosecuting Donald Trump.
On ongoing cases. Imagine pretending that this is at all the same, that this is even remotely similar. That's great. Him and HAW get the same marching orders, I guess. Holy shit.
I didn't see many in the media objecting to that. The fact is that our system of justice needs to be depoliticized. And unfortunately, under the Biden administration, we have seen it weaponized, and it's wrong.
That is partially true, and it was weaponized. It was weaponized against the Bidens because of liberals' obsession with self-flagellation. The Hunter Biden charges are in. I should add that to my. We should just have that 100%. The persecution for the gun shit, and I think wasn't it a federal tax crime conviction for like $200,000 owed to the IRS or something? Hold on, what were the Hunter Biden convictions? All of them under Biden, by the way. Convicted of 3 federal firearms-related felony charges in June 2024 after he admitted to illegally owning a gun while a drug user. Oh my God. Like, actually unbelievable. What was the... Hold on, I'm curious what was the dollar amount on these? Oh, okay, it was more at least. Okay, I thought it was $200K. It was $1.4 million in federal taxes. And then he filed tax returns with fraudulent business deductions. Can somebody explain why Roger Stone didn't have the same charges or conviction? Because Roger Stone had around $2 million in taxes that he was evading illegally with other companies, but he was just able to work out a deal. Why? Because for Roger Stone, he had almost $2 million in unpaid taxes. And I don't think there was any, well, one, it's a civil suit, so it wasn't even criminal. And I'm pretty sure the resolution to this was he just like made a payment deal to pay them back. I don't know. Maybe there's an actual material difference in what happened, but
all right, sir. We should note those charges were, of course, dropped because Donald Trump was elected to become our...
Stone was pardoned. Yeah, but I don't think Stone was pardoned over the tax fraud stuff. I think he was pardoned over the obstruction and whatnot for Congress when he was asking questions about, or when he was asked questions about the Trump stuff and the Russia stuff. He was indicted on charges of lying to Congress about what he and then candidate Trump knew about Russian efforts to discredit Hillary Clinton, witness tampering and obstruction. Oh, because he told another witness, he told them to lie. He said, you need to lie to Congress when they ask you these questions. He just said that. He just told them to do that. And he was just pardoned out of all of this. Unbelievable.
Our next president. But, sir, I know you also were eager to talk about the situation in the Middle East. And, of course, we saw that heartbreaking video from the Israeli-American hostage, Aidan Alexander. There also have been some...
Okay, so he just gets to make all those statements to the CNN audience with absolutely no correction whatsoever and then just continue. Okay, that's cool. Nice. Good news network. Nice.
Seen it weaponized, and it's wrong.
It feels like when pro-Pallies are like, oh, Wikipedia is just biased and that's why we don't trust it. It's like, bro, Wikipedia is biased in favor of Palestine. You know that, right? Like, you guys are crazy wiki warriors, like editing every single fucking article with Israeli genocide. Like, yeah, it is biased, but not in the direction that you're saying it is, but okay.
All right, sir. We should note those charges were, of course, dropped because Donald Trump was elected to become our next president. But, sir, I know you also were eager to...
She just corrected him and no. This is not a real correction. Fuck you. This is not a real correction. It was just, the charges were dropped because Donald Trump was elected. Okay, never mind.
But those charges were, of course, dropped because Donald Trump was elected to become our next president. But, sir, I know you also were eager to talk about the situation in the Middle East. And, of course, we saw that heartbreaking video from the Israeli-American hostage, Aidan Alexander. There also have been some comments from some of your colleagues on Capitol Hill, notably Lindsey Graham, who is, of course, a supporter and ally of Donald Trump's, who said that the incoming president wants to see a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas before he is inaugurated. Do you think that's a plausible reality?
Look, I think you're seeing very quickly world leaders come to the table. You saw, obviously, the Prime Minister of Canada fly down to Mar-a-Lago. You saw the President of Mexico respond very quickly to the President's tweet the other day about the issue of tariffs and cracking down on cartels. I think what you're seeing in the Middle East is movement. People recognize that Donald Trump is going to crack down on Iran in a way, frankly, this administration has not. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the illicit oil trade has exploded to over $200 billion. That is what has funded Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and other terror networks. Obviously, with Prime Minister Netanyahu and the IDF taking out the leadership of Hezbollah and Hamas, and President Trump coming into office, there is more pressure now.
Isn't it illegal for an incoming president to negotiate with their president? Technically, it is. Yeah, it's supposed to be illegal, but I don't think laws don't really apply to Donald Trump or any of the Republicans, so it doesn't really matter.
On these entities to enter into a ceasefire. I think, obviously, it was welcome news that Hezbollah entered into a ceasefire. We'll see how long that lasts. But I think the bottom line with Hamas is very simple. Release the hostages and surrender. The United States needs to use maximum pressure, including on Qatar, to get the hostages out. It is outrageous that we still have 7 Americans being held hostage, 4 presumed living, 3 deceased. And this should be the top priority of both the current administration and the incoming administration, to get these hostages out. I have met with every one of these hostage families multiple times, including the Alexander family. It is heartbreaking to watch that video yesterday, and a shameful reminder that a terrorist organization has been allowed to hold 7 Americans hostage for over 400 plus days. It is outrageous.
Congressman, on the topic that we introduced you with, the incredibly slim margin in the House of Representatives, what do you say to all of your Republican colleagues, any one of whom could decide to basically grind the gears of government to a halt about what they should do with this power? And what do you intend to do with it? Would you be willing to, for example, I know that state and local tax deductions are very important to you. Is it something you'd consider holding up government over?
Look, the American people elected Donald Trump and majorities in both the House and the Senate for the Republicans. And obviously, the focus will be on the economy, the border, energy policy, the international crises that we are dealing with, tax reform, and spending and government reform. I think when you look at the issue of taxes, for instance, I've been very clear. I will not support a tax bill that does not lift the cap on salt. President Trump made clear during the campaign that he agrees that we do need to lift the cap on salt.
Wait, me, I should know what this is. What state and local tax deductions, does that just mean that you can deduct, you get a tax deduction on how much money it's estimated to have been spent on your state and local taxes? Does that include the state income tax? Do you pay federal income tax on the same if money that you pay for state income tax, are you taxed on the money that you pay to the state, or would that be part of the SALT deduction? Property sales or income taxes already paid to state and local governments. There is no cap to the value of the SALT deduction. In theory, the deduction exists to offset some federal taxpayer liability by excluding income already taken in states for state. Oh, wait. Destiny, no. State taxes are deducted. Wait, are they? You can deduct any estimated taxes paid to state or local governments and any prior year's state or local income tax, as long as they were paid during the tax year. Is there a limit to this, or is there no limit to this? The reason why I say, oh, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. If I'm understanding it correctly, though, fuck you, Econo Boy. Because Econo Boy said, SALT caps was one of the most progressive changes of Trump's tax bill. Because this is my guess here. My guess is some of the highest state taxed states are probably blue states. So capping your SALT deductions is probably just a way to federally fuck people in blue states. Is that all it is? Or am I reading too much into that or misunderstanding the application? Because it sounds like if you live in a low income tax state or whatever, you're going to be hurt less than if you live in a high income tax state. And I bet the highest income tax states are probably places like New York, especially New York City or California or whatever. What do you say to people who say there is more crime in blue states? I don't know, but I've heard it. I think that the per capita crime, I think, is highest in rural places. I think. I'm going to go and look at it again. 10 highest violent crime per capita cities. These 20 cities with the highest crime rates. This is the number of incidents per 100,000 people. Well, this looks pretty big city, I guess. We've got St. Louis. And then Detroit, Baltimore, and Memphis are 2, 3, and 4. Little Rock, Milwaukee, and Rockford. Cleveland, Stockton, and Albuquerque. Springfield, Indianapolis, Oakland, San Bernardino, Anchorage, Nashville, Lansing, New Orleans, and Minneapolis, and Chicago. I don't know where I read that other thing before. I wonder if Albuquerque? What a great webpage also. Thank God. Wait, my Windows license is infected? Oh, shit. Okay, forget I said that. I might have made that up. I feel like I read this somewhere. Maybe it was red states or something? I'm not sure. State and local tax deductions are more valuable in areas with higher incomes. And probably in areas with higher local taxes, I would imagine, right?
We're going to negotiate and work through that process. I think the key to remember, though, is there's no I in team. We all got elected individually, yes, but we got elected to serve as a Republican majority and work to get things done on behalf of the American people. I'm proud of my record in this Congress. I've been rated the 4th most bipartisan member of Congress. I've gotten 10 bills passed, 5 signed into law in a divided government because I'm willing to compromise and work together. The fact is, all of us have that responsibility. There's not going to be a lot of room for error here, especially in the early months with 3 members down. So we're going to be at 217 most likely, or 218. Yeah. And we'll need every vote to pass legislation, which means we got to compromise and work together. We're not going to get everything we want. Anybody who's ever been married understands the art of compromise. But we got to work together for the American people.
The art of compromise, indeed. Can you imagine having 218 people that you actually have to get all on the same page? It's going to be dicey. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
Wow. Thank you so much. Good job, Congressman.
Today we're going to talk about the danger of Trump's latest pick to lead the FBI and what it says more broadly about his priorities in his administration. And I've got
90 electoral votes isn't a landslide. Calling it a landslide by electoral votes is just a very weird way to consider it a landslide. Like you can have, because I think that when Hillary lost to Trump, I don't remember how many electoral votes it was, but the vote difference was very, very, very small, right? Like you can have a large electoral count lead, but it could be by a very small number of votes. So I guess it just feels weird to say it's like a landslide, I guess. I don't know. But if it makes you feel better about yourself.
You know by now that Donald Trump has nominated Kash Patel to lead the FBI. To give you an idea of who Kash Patel is, I'm actually going to defer to Bill Barr's words here from his book. The president then started advancing the idea of appointing Kash Patel as deputy FBI director. Patel, who was completing a stint as deputy to acting director of national intelligence Rick Grenell, had been a staffer to Congressman Devin Nunes and had served briefly on the NSC staff at the White House under Trump. I categorically opposed making Patel deputy FBI director. I told Mark Meadows it would happen, quote, over my dead body. Someone with no background as an agent would never be able to command the respect necessary to run the day-to-day operation.
I heard many times this is one of the closest elections. Fair to say that? I mean, it depends on how you define it as close election. I mean, in terms of the popular vote difference, I think that might be true. In terms of like electoral college outcome, I'm not 100% sure, but it's weird how we have because our electoral college is like an absolute thing for most states, even if the vote total is very close. So.
Operations of the Bureau. Furthermore, Patel had virtually no experience that would qualify him to serve at the highest level of the world's preeminent law enforcement agency. The Bureau already had an exceptionally able deputy, David Bowditch, in whom I had total confidence. He was a strong leader with high integrity. He was indispensable as far as I was concerned. The very idea of moving Patel into a role like this showed a shocking detachment from reality. That was Bill Barr. That was Trump's hand-picked attorney general, the same guy who straight up lied about the Mueller report in an effort to protect Trump from what the report actually said. So for that guy to say that Kash Patel should lead the FBI over his dead body probably gives you a pretty decent indication as to why he is so unqualified for this position. And if Bill Barr's warnings don't move you, listen to Kash Patel's own words. Here he is during an interview with Steve Bannon from last year before he was nominated FBI director.
Do you feel confident that you will be able to deliver the goods, that we can have serious prosecutions?
I think we watched this on stream. He stole this from, I'm just kidding. This is kind of irrelevant, but why do you bother ever having any combos on policy if there's no meta-ethical foundations to justify those policies? Seems like you are presuming there is a good to argue that we ought to strive for X policy over Y. Because I think meta-ethically, we probably are all about on the same page anyway, even if we don't have those positions figured out. Like if I were to show 100 humans which world is better, this world where everybody has a house or this world where everybody is roaming, the desert, like people say, oh, probably one with houses. Like I think most people are in pretty big alignment on a lot of fundamental value stuff like that. So you don't have to have that debate. I think you just kind of assume it and move on from there.
And accountability. And I want the Morning Joe producers that watch us and all the producers that watch us. This is just not rhetoric. We're absolutely dead serious. We're not. You cannot have a constitutional republic and allow what these deep staters have done to the country. The deep state, the administrative state, the fourth branch of government never mentioned in the Constitution, is going to be taken apart brick by brick. And the people that did these evil deeds will be held accountable and prosecuted, criminal prosecutions. Kash, I know you're probably going to be head of the CIA, but do you believe that you can deliver the goods on this in a pretty short order the first couple of months so we can get rolling on prosecutions?
Yes, we got the bench for it, Bannon, and you know those guys. I'm not going to go out there and say their names right now so the radical left-wing media can terrorize them. But, excuse me.
Also, remember, I saw some fucking morons responding to my tweet about Trump's bullshit that Trump only wants to go after the radical left. Remember that when they say that, radical left to them is like every single person that voted for or supported Biden or Harris. That's the radical left. Like, don't forget that.
The one thing we learned in the Trump administration the first go around is we got to put in all America patriots top to bottom. And we got them for law enforcement. We got them for intel collection. We got them for offensive operations. We got them for DOD, CIA, everywhere. And the one thing we will do that they never will.
Like this fucking loser can't even just say like happy Thanksgiving or whatever. Like happy Thanksgiving to all, including to the radical left lunatics who have worked so hard to destroy our country, but who have miserably failed and will always fail because their ideas and policies are so hopelessly bad that the great people of our nation just gave a landslide victory to those who want to make America great again. Don't worry, our country will soon be respected, productive, fair, and strong, and you will be, more than ever before, proud to be an American. Wow, what a great, wholesome, unifying Thanksgiving message. Jesus Christ.
will do is we will follow the facts and the law and go to courts of law and correct these justices and lawyers who have been prosecuting these cases based on politics and actually issuing them as lawfare. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators.
That he'll go after the media for the apparent crime of helping Joe Biden rig the presidential election? In other words,
I don't understand, Americans, God, it's so cringe that I'm like actually using unironic be permitted a reference, but like Americans see this guy and they're like, this is my guy.
Faces a grave and terrible threat.
We believe in this guy. We're going to go after the guys in the media and the politicians and everybody with all the DOJ and the FBI and everybody else. And people are like, yes, that's my team.
All on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators.
That he'll go after the media for the apparent crime of helping Joe Biden rig the presidential election? In other words, this is the guy up for FBI director who is claiming that Joe Biden lost in 2020, which is an outright lie and conspiracy theory, and he's willing to criminally prosecute anyone, from lawyers to members of the media, who correctly reported on or litigated in favor of Joe Biden. This is out-and-out weaponization of government. This is what an actual witch hunt looks like. Claiming that Donald Trump won in 2020 and prosecuting those who acknowledged objective reality. If this doesn't scare you about Trump's incoming administration, I don't know what will. But what's telling here is that while Trump's picks for certain roles are pretty uncontroversial, Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Susie Wiles as Chief of Staff.
Wait, did I mishear him, or are our standards just way different? Wait, what? Or maybe he's just been, because everything's just so crazy. I mean, I guess comparatively speaking, sure.
Incoming administration, I don't know what will. But what's telling here is that while Trump's picks for certain roles are pretty uncontroversial, Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Susie Wiles as Chief of Staff, the roles where he's swinging for the fences all have a very obvious through line here. Matt Gaetz and then Pam Bondi as Attorney General, Kash Patel.
I think he's talking relatively. I guess relatively speaking, Marco Rubio is very sane. But I guess, yeah, that's fair. No, yeah, I guess relatively speaking, that's true, yeah.
Patel at FBI, his personal lawyer Todd Blanche as Deputy Attorney General. It's the positions where he needs loyalists to be able to wield the government as a cudgel against his enemies that he's actually swinging for the fences. That's where he's spending all of his political capital. Marco Rubio at State goes to show that Trump does not care what happens in that role. What he's focused on is being able to enact his retribution tour. And the way he does that is with the very people who he's nominated to lead those positions. Not only will there be no pushback from those people, but they are just as eager as he is to weaponize the government. So look, I've been pretty clear about what we should do in terms of Democrats resisting this administration. I've been pretty clear that we have limited political capital and that if we treat everything like a five-alarm fire, then nothing feels like a five-alarm fire. But this is a fire worth focusing on. This is above Pam Bondi. This is above Tulsi Gabbard, above Pete Hegseth, insofar as we're ranking them or we get only one or two bites at the apple. If there's anything to raise hell over, it is Kash Patel. That should be our focus in a political environment where we still have the ability to drive the narrative if someone is particularly dangerous. Matt Gaetz' nomination didn't survive to confirmation hearings for a reason, likely because he wants to be governor of Florida and that he knew the ethics report would eventually come out in the confirmation hearings, and he didn't want that. But let's be clear, it was the Democrats who forced this issue, and we should do the exact same thing here. This is also why it's important not to tune out here. And if you're anything like me, you're probably exhausted to some degree and discouraged.
Is it, how many votes Senate to confirm presidential appointment? It's going to say it's 60, but that they can just end the filibuster and do 51, huh? Is it just a simple majority? What is the what is the composition of the Senate going forward? What is the, is it 52-48 or is it 53? Ooh, 53. Absolutely. I don't even know if this is showing me. For independent, what does that mean? They're all Republican duders? Oh, no, wait, Bernie Sanders. Wait, what year is this for? Oh, no, this is our current Senate. This isn't going to be the next one where people have been elected. Never mind. Or where people have been elected, all right. I mean, the Trump first term was 54. Yeah, but I don't think Trump realized how much he needed sycophants in the government, right? Like, Trump just assumed that strong Republicans would support him in destroying the government. That's why people like Barr or even like Tillerson was unconventional, but he wasn't like a traitor to the United States like somebody like Kash Patel would be, right? Like, so even Trump's unconventional picks weren't like authoritarian supporters.
Discouraged to some degree, but this is a moment where it is necessary to pay attention and sound the alarms. This is why it's so necessary not to check out, because the Trump White House will be bad, but it will be so much worse if there's nothing moderating Donald Trump's worst impulses. We saw it work with Matt Gaetz, and we should ensure that it works again here. I know that it may not feel like it, but we've still got power, we've still got influence, and this is the moment where we need to use it. Coming up next are previews of...
Wait, what do we have power and influence over? Over what?
It will be so much worse if there's nothing moderating Donald Trump's worst impulses. We saw it work with Matt Gaetz, and we should ensure that it works again here. I know that...
As much as I... do we get hope-pilled or doomer-pilled? Like, as much as I would like to say it worked for Matt Gaetz, like, Gaetz had quite a bit of pushback on the Republican side as well, no? Like, I don't know if the Democrat pushback there mattered as much. I could be wrong on that. I'd have to go and check. I don't know.
That it may not feel like it, but we've still got power, we've still got influence, and this is the moment where we need to use it. Coming up next are previews of my interviews with Tommy Vitor and Max Dyer, but first a quick note, my once weekly podcast, No Lie, which is what you're watching right now.
Don't burn this bridge. Why would I burn the bridge with Brian? Elon Musk is right. The Pentagon, with a budget of $886 billion, just failed its 7th audit in a row. It's lost track of billions. I don't know if it's lost track of that money. When I try to look this up, every time it says the Pentagon is failing an audit, there's just money that they can't like report publicly or don't want to report to the the Office of Inspector General or whatever. I don't think that it's literally just that the money is lost, like flushed down the drain. But, okay. I don't know why I have this up. There's no way I'm ever watching any part of this.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out! Sort, meaning that it swaps out its genetic material like a flu virus does with other coronaviruses, and we could see a new punch. It could actually evade immune protection. We don't know that. So I think the challenge we have is just being honest with everybody. This is the guardrail. One side is it could go back to another Omicron-like experience, or that may be the last one. I hope for the last one being the mild one, but hope's not a strategy. So you got to look at what do we need to do to be prepared. And right now, everybody in this country wants to back away, back off, and say we're done, which I want to too. I feel that. But at the same time, I have to say, I don't know that we're done. Just like I said a year ago, I thought the darkest days were still ahead of us.
Now, when you say that, so Omicron is far more contagious than Delta. And far, far more contagious than the original variant.
Yes.
Right. Now, when you say that, maybe whatever numbers that you used, that it's less likely to cause hospitalization, but because it's infecting so many people, you actually get more hospitalizations.
That's exactly right.
So what's the cause? Like, why are some people getting badly hit by it, whereas other people, it's just a runny nose?
Well,
Why is it acceptable for the Pentagon to have funds that they can't disclose? I don't think they need to make them public, but they can at least show certain Congress people. Otherwise, isn't that literally a deep state thing that MAGA people talk about, where a government entity isn't held accountable by anyone and operates on its own? I mean, if you want to have that conversation, I think that conversation is totally fine. But just don't say that it's like a black hole of unaccounted money, or I'm sorry, of money that's just like lost or wasted, because we don't know. Just say that. Just say that there should be a different accountability mechanism or something. And they might already have one also, by the way. I'm not even sure. I'd have to go dig into it. But I'm just saying that just don't call it like wasted or mismanaged. Like, you don't know. That's just dumb. But I don't know what accountability mechanisms the Pentagon has internally, or the DoD or whatever has internally.
we don't know. We do know a couple of things about protection. Number one is if you've been vaccinated, particularly if you've had the 3rd dose, if you've previously been infected, which also does add to your immunity, clearly, those obviously work in your favor. If you have some of these underlying health issues that we've talked about, which, it's not just about being in shape or not. People with diabetes, people with asthma, people who are immunosuppressed. There are 7.5 million.
Wait, Jesus Christ, true. This is the official Joe Rogan channel, right? Wait, why does this video only have 1.3 thousand views?
Americans right now that are immunosuppressed.
He posted like hundreds over the course of a week. Oh, okay. He was uploading like a backlog or whatever.
Because of the disease they have, they're being treated for cancer. All those people are at much higher risk of having severe illness. And even what we saw with kids, we had never seen this level of activity as we saw with Omicron with kids.
When Joe Rogan's exclusive podcast deal ended, they mass uploaded all the episodes that used to be exclusive to Spotify. Gotcha. Okay.
And so I think the challenge we have today is...
For hospitalizations?
Yes, even for hospitalizations.
Now, the kids that were hospitalized, did all of them have comorbidities?
No, many of them did not.
So some of them were not even obese?
Yep.
And they were hospitalized?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Yep. Omicron clearly really took a hit on kids.
That's interesting because in my kid...
I don't want to watch. I can't do all this because this stuff still triggers out of me. These like escape questions that he's looking for, like, well, wait, did they have comorbidities? That's not an argument against anything, right? The fact that like 99% of Americans probably have some kind of comorbidity for something like COVID, right? Like obesity or being overweight is a comorbidity. Any kind of like diabetes or heart disease or any of these things could be comorbidities. That's not an argument. It's like, oh, so the disease itself doesn't actually matter. They had a comorbidity. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, like tons of people have tons of comorbidities for a lot of things. I don't know what the point of bringing that up is. They're so like desperate to like hang their hat on that point. Like, oh, it was a comorbidity, so it doesn't matter. That.
Kid's school, a few kids got Omicron, and it was essentially like me or my friends who got it. It was very mild.
If you look at right now, just through this up till this past month, with most of this activity having been primarily in the last 6 weeks, 1,334 kids between the ages of 0 and 17 have died from COVID.
1,334 kids. Yep. And out of these kids, how many had comorbidities? How many were obese?
Some did, but a comorbidity is not just obesity. Yes,
right.
In fact, let me come back and say,
like he's so fucking hungry for that. Oh, they're not real deaths.
Somebody who has diabetes is considered having a comorbidity. Sure. If you look at somebody who has asthma, which about 7% of all the asthma in the country is in kids.
All sorts of autoimmune diseases.
Exactly. So all of those add to it.
Right.
And so that's been part of the real challenge we've had with this.
But for normal, healthy kids, is this something that's more dangerous than Delta?
Absolutely it was.
Really?
Absolutely it was.
Is that shocking to you? Because it seems like for adults, the effect that it has on the general population, it seems that the consensus is that it's more mild.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges we have. If you've known the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 and you knew it in 2021, doesn't mean how well you know it today, because things have changed.
Right.
For example, if you look at the infectiousness in kids, the early data we had on how well this virus transmits in kids was before we ever had the Alpha variant, which showed up in roughly December of 2020 into January 2021. And we found limited transmission in kids, limited severe illness. Then Alpha came along, and we saw much more transmission. We had places in this country that had large outbreaks, school-based outbreaks. Then that kind of went away. Then Delta came and added even more transmission with kids than we'd seen before, and Omicron was the king. And so I think if you knew COVID-19 back in 2020, you didn't necessarily know it today in terms of the infectiousness and what we saw happen. So I think that's one of the challenges we have, is just keeping up to date on what it did and how it did it with kids.
And the variants, as they, like, so there's the original version, and the Alpha version is the first variant that was discovered?
Well, yeah, what they've labeled them by is the Greek alphabet. So Alpha was kind of the first one there, and then we've had...
But not the original virus, but the first variant of the virus?
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting with this virus is the fact that if you look at what we call the ancestral variant, the one that originated in Wuhan, all the subsequent variants we've seen have actually all gone back, and their roots are in that ancestral variant. It doesn't mean that if you had Alpha, it turns into Delta. With a little bit more changes, it turns into Omicron. Every one of them have a distinct line back to the original variant. And that's one of the challenges we have, because that's going to continue to happen, where we're going to continue to see these new variants show up.
And as far as the variants that are in play right now, like what percentage of the...
Oh, yeah, wait. So then what? So this was 5 months ago. So what was the original broadcast date, I guess, of this?
Infections right now are Omicron. What percentage are Delta? Yeah. Is there any of the original variant left?
Well, the original variant surely is out there, because we keep seeing these new variants come from it. So it has to be somewhere. I can't tell you where it's at.
The variants don't come from like Delta creating a new variant?
February of 2022. Gotcha.
So
it's actually takes you back to the original variant. So the question Omicron's in this one right now in the United States, virtually 100% of the variants we see are Omicron. 100% in the U.S. and virtually around the world. It's beaten out Delta completely. If you look in the United States, there are 3 sublineages of that variant. We call BA1, BA2, and BA3. And we're watching a battle go on right now between those subvariants. And it turned out BA1 was the original one. We first saw kind of the original Omicron. But BA2, which appears to be more infectious now, is beating out Omicron. In some countries in the world, it's become the dominant variant. In the United States, it's still a small percentage, but it's growing. Last week it was 4%. The previous week it was 1%. So we don't know what that's going to mean in terms of seeing more of the BA2 variant emerge.
How do they make the distinction between Omicron, Delta, Omicron, and then BA1, BA2? Why do they decide that this isn't another variant? Why do they just keep calling it Omicron?
Yeah, and this is one of those questions where I'm not the world's expert on the overall genetics of this virus, but I'll tell you that the mutations that occur surely can accumulate. If you look right now, for example, there's more difference genetically between BA1 and BA2 than there is between the ancestral virus and Alpha.
Really?
Yes. So it has to do pretty much how it evolved out of that ancestral virus tree, and is it different enough? And so, there's been discussion that there may actually be some effort made to consider BA2 as a new variant of concern by itself. So, but this is, I think, the message here is this is what we have to continue to be mindful of. I know everybody wants me to say today we're done, and I hope we're done. But as I said just a moment ago, hope's not a strategy. Right. I think that we could still see the emergence of new variants that could challenge the immunity that we have already, which is what makes this virus so difficult and so different than we've had before. When you see influenza, pandemic influenza occurs because of bird virus finally evolves out of the bird, gets into particularly a pig, because a pig has a lung that has receptor cells for both human viruses and bird viruses. And when they get into a pig cell in particular, they combine, they mix up, the flu viruses are very promiscuous, and they come up with this brand new strain that causes the next pandemic. Well, when that spillover occurs into humans, that's kind of the seminal event. The rest of it emerges pretty much in humans. We don't necessarily see us giving it back to the animals, they give it back to us, we give it to the animals, they give it back to us. With looking at SARS-CoV-2 and this particular coronavirus, we don't know what it's going to do. Is it going to go back and forth between animals? I mean, I could line list an entire set of all the animals that are now infected with this virus, and we don't know what that means.
The first ones that we found that transmit from humans to animals, or back to in terms of SARS-CoV-2, was it ferrets? Like, what was the first animal that they discovered that humans can infect and they can infect us with?
Well, there was game animals, mink and so forth in Europe that we saw that. But it became clear because we started seeing zoo animals infected.
Right.
Just this past week, we've heard about low-lying gorillas,
and stuff,
cats.
yeah.
We've seen dogs and cats in people's homes where there were cases. And they got the white-tailed deer. I think there's a whole number of animal species where ultimately they could be infected with this virus. And the trillion-dollar question we don't know, will that in any way, shape, or form contribute to a spillback moment into humans with a new virus that, again, will challenge our immune systems, challenge our protection? And what does that mean? And we just don't know.
Is that the term they use, or animal reservoir?
Yes, absolutely. That's it.
So that's any other animal that can catch it. Now, is that...
Well, catch it and keep it going inside them. So sometimes an animal may get an infection from us and it's terminal. It doesn't keep going in the animal population, but as we just talked about the white-tailed deer, clearly there, the virus is ongoing with transmission in the deer population itself.
Are there any examples of an animal being infected?
Okay, I don't care.